ago, one of my nieces said to me, you know, she said, Aunt Kathy, you like to run, you like to bike, you like to swim. Why don't you do a triathlon? Now, here's the example, somebody presenting an opportunity, and I said, let me think about it. So one day I'm swimming at the pool, and I see this woman, and she said, you know, I'm here to swim because I'm going to do a triathlon this summer. And I said, oh, where are you going to do it? It's the same one my niece was telling me about. So I called my niece and I said, okay, I'm in. You got me interested, I'm going to do it. So I did my first triathlon, and my husband did it also. Now, it was a sprint triathlon, so it's not like what you might be thinking. You swim a quarter of a mile, you ride your bike 15 miles, and then you run 3 miles at the end. So I did this thing. At the end, we're getting ready to put our bikes in our car, and I hear my name being called. So I go over. When you know it, I got a plaque. I win a trophy. I'm third place. Third place because there's 3 people in my age group. So I thought, okay, so the next week, our hospital is having a race for your heart. And so we thought, you know, we're in shape from this. Let's just go ahead and do this. So I enter this race. First place, only 1 person in my age group. So I called my kids and I said, you know, I think I found my niche. I just need to show up. So 2 weeks later, I did another triathlon, and I'm doing this triathlon where you had to bike over a railroad track. I got to the railroad track and a train was coming. I lost like 9 minutes waiting for the train to go by. Then I'm going up a hill, and the chain comes off of my bike at the steepest part of like a 4-mile hill. So I walk my bike the rest of the way up, and I asked the monitor to help me get the chain back on. Meanwhile, I have grease all over my hands. I'm wiping them on my pants, getting back on the bike. I thought I might as well just finish. It's better just to keep going. So when you know it, I come in second, only 2 people in my age group. So the point of the thing is, sometimes you just have to show up. You show up and be ready. If you show up at the gym in your gym clothes, you're going to work out. If you show up at the pool in your bathing suit, you're going to swim. If you show up at the track in your sneakers, you're going to walk. So the idea, just relate this to anything, any fitness goal you have, just show up. It doesn't really matter how you do. No one really looks at you. Everybody's just concerned about how their own fitness routine. So just apply that to whatever your goal was related to energy, about going to the gym for the first time or trying anything. Just show up. And if your goal relates to that you want to do something related to writing, again, show up at a writer's club. Join something and you just show up and start doing it. So you don't have to be good. You just have to be persistent. Remember I told you when I went to Phoenix several years ago, I got my best tip on the last day? Well, this related to procrastination. And what the gentleman said was this. He said, go with your ideas when you're at 80%. Go at 80%. And the more I thought about it, it made so much sense. So many times we are striving for perfection. And we're holding back. And he said, women in particular. And he said, we'll think, oh, if I just one more course or one more this, I'll be ready to do it. And I think if you really think about that, go at 80%, you will find you are so much more productive. That made a major difference for me. And I can give you an example. When I was working on my etiquette book, I had done so many presentations. I've published 20 articles. I was really ready for this book. And then I got a little nervous, and I said to one of my friends, I said, Lynn, there's a course here on etiquette. I'm wondering if I should take it. And she looked at me and she said, Kathy, if I were your chief financial officer, I would never sign that check. You don't need it. Go with it now. And here I was. I was falling into that trap. Whatever, maybe there was something I didn't know, but I could go with it and learn it when I was writing. So go with your idea at 80%. And I think that will really help you if you're procrastinating. And there's a quote that I have on the handout that applies to this, and it says, sometimes you need to jump off a cliff and grow your wings on the way down. And I think that's what all of you have done. And when you look at where you are in your careers, I know I've talked to so many people. You started into something, you didn't have everything lined up 100%. You jumped off that cliff, you developed your wings, and you were able to do it. Years ago, when I graduated from college, I was going into the Army Nurse Corps. And at that time, the state board exam was 2 full days. So many of you probably remember that. It was 2 full days. And I remember thinking that I just want to get this done and never have to see this exam again. And since I was going into the Army, we said to our professors, so like I'm in Maryland, but I really live in Pennsylvania. Will I have to take the boards again? And they said, no, you'll be able to get reciprocity. So when I was taking the boards, I never liked maternity, and I never liked psych, and I never liked peds. I was pretty much a med-surg person right from the get-go. So as I was studying for those boards, I remember thinking, this is the last time I ever have to know the 3 phases of labor, what placenta previa is, what childhood appropriate activities, all these things that I didn't like. I thought, this is the last time. So I took the test and I passed. I went in the Army, and then later, about 5 years later, I got my first teaching job in New York State. So I applied for reciprocity to New York, and I was rejected. And the reason I was rejected was because the day that I took my boards in Baltimore, they had a cheating scandal in New York City. So if you took them the same day, you had to retake. So there I was, 6 years now after graduating, master's in med-surg, going for my first teaching job, and I'm back there going over the 3 phases of labor again, childhood appropriate tasks. And I thought, oh no, this is just terrible. I felt so stressed. It was truly the lowest point in my career that I had to take those tests again. And then I thought, what if I fail? I mean, I'm the new faculty member coming in, and what if, I don't pass? What would happen there? So, again, I had this no sense studying the med-surg part. I mean, I had my master's there, but I had to study the other 3. And as I walked out of that exam, I thought to myself, that was interesting, that med-surg part, a lot of that I only know from experience. I didn't learn that in school. And they were things in particular about diagnostic and lab testing. They were asking questions about preparing a patient for an IVP, or what you do after a barium enema, something about a blood sugar. And I thought, I know all that from my experience. I don't know that from an undergraduate. Then I thought, maybe this is my book idea. Because I looked when I started teaching, and I thought, where do we teach this? We didn't teach it anywhere. Opportunities are part of the puzzle of who we are. They help define us. And I can give you an example of a young woman named Nancy who was a nurse's aide. Now, I used to see Nancy in the morning on the unit where I would take my students. She would be coming off a night shift. I'd be coming in early in the morning. And Nancy would be stocking the supply cart. And she wasn't just like some nurses' aides that are just throwing everything in there. She was putting everything in there because she knew why it should go in there. And she would say to me, oh, so you want a patient with diabetes? Are you looking for this learning experience? She was like giving me a report about all the great patients for my students. And so finally I said, Nancy, Nancy, you are by far the best nurse's aide I've ever worked with. There's no one I've ever worked with better. And I think you should be a registered nurse. Have you ever considered going to college and getting your degree in nursing? Well, she had never considered it. But then the next year she enrolled in our program. 4 years later, had her BSN. So sometimes you just need somebody to say, have you ever thought of this? So many times people will say, why did you go into nursing? Well, because my doctor said, you have a nice way of taking care of people, or something gets somebody into that. So accept opportunities. When I was in the Army Nurse Corps, at one point, I had just been promoted to captain. I was 25 years old, and I was promoted as the patient care coordinator or head nurse of the cardiology unit. So our chief nurse of the hospital said, for this coming year, we're going to have our in-services all given by the head nurses of the unit. So anyone in that position, you will be scheduled a month, and you need to give a presentation hospital-wide. Well, I was 25 years old. I no way would I ever have volunteered for that, but I had to do it because of the position. And the chief medical officer at our hospital was a cardiologist who would be in attendance at my seminar. So like, the pressure was on. I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way to get out of it. I have to do it. Okay, so here was something I never would have done, but then I found as I was getting it together, I really liked putting together that presentation. I really liked coming up with a way to explain it. I liked doing it. And when I gave my presentation, a number of people said to me, did you ever consider teaching? And I said, no, I hadn't considered that. That really started me thinking about teaching, and I actually changed my master's program to a minor in education and went off into as a nurse educator. Now see, there's an example. That's an opportunity. Would I ever have raised my hand and volunteered to do that? Absolutely not. But opportunities fill in a piece of the puzzle of who we are.